the most important people in the world right now, because y'all are the decision makers of tomorrow. And y'all all possess the power to actually change culture as it exists today. But you have to have the courage.
Powerful words from Shaka Senghor. The Detroit native is now encouraging young people to follow a positive path. He says other adults can do it too, and it all starts with a simple action.
Really taking the time to listen, that's one of the things that I think that's really undervalued in our communities. Instead of talking to the youth, we need to really listen more. And when you start listening to them, you'll find out that their actions are a reflection of what's going on inside of them internally. And I found it to be very helpful in allowing them the space to really talk about some of the things that's really impacting them in their decisions.
Shaka is so passionate about helping the youth because he feels he can relate to what they may be going through.
I mean, I see in them, I see myself. I see some of my peers that I work with today. We were those misguided youth. At one point, we were those hurt youth. And unfortunately, we didn't have anybody to really reach back who understood us. We had people who tried to help us, but if you can't help anybody who you don't really understand. Like if you having a child who's come from a household that's been physically abused or sexually abused, and you just telling them, hey, you just need to straighten up without understanding the dynamics behind that, you're really not in a position to help them. I just wanted to be able to be a voice and an advocate and give them an outlet to let their voices be heard.
Shaka believes parents and other adults may need to change their approach when trying to reach their children.
I think that one of the first things that parents, as well as teachers and other authority figures can do is, first of all, not react from a position of anger, to not automatically attack the youth, because a lot of times that's what happens. We so busy telling them what to do that we're really not taking the time out to listen to what they want to do. And I think that's one of the greatest errors we make. Like if I walk up to you and just start attacking how you wear your clothes, then you're not going to be open to having a conversation with me, because you're going to become very defensive, and that's what tends to take place with our youth. So I think that what's needed right now is more parents and more administrative people, more people in authority to actually listen and just really read those signs, because no child just wakes up one day and say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go rob a bank, or I'm gonna go shoot somebody, or I'm gonna go, club somebody over here and take their purse. It's signs there that this child needs attention, they need help, and they need an outlet. So don't ignore those small signs. Don't ignore the first time your child gets in trouble. And don't just react angrily, but seek to understand.
Growing up, Shaka had a history with violence and crime, but finds it difficult to pinpoint just one thing that led him down the wrong path.
I think it was a series of events that kind of led me down the path that I took, starting with not being able to get along with my mother and run away from home, being introduced to the crack trade by older guys in the neighborhood. I didn't have anywhere to go, and they offered me an opportunity to make some money. Being robbed at gunpoint at 14 years old, being brutally beat and left in a crack house at the same age, being shot at 17 years old, watching my childhood friend murdered at 15, watching my brother get shot. So it was these series of events that went ignored in our family. A lot of the stuff I experienced in the streets, my parents had no idea. So they had no idea of the anger that I held inside toward them. And so I had to develop ways of coping, and that was, using alcohol, drugs, and carrying guns.
A life in the streets eventually caught up with Shaka when at just 19 years old, he was convicted of second-degree murder.
I couldn't even comprehend the idea of spending the next 17 to 40 years of my life in prison, because I had barely lived 17 years. I was 1 month into my 19th birthday. And, I just thought about all of the disappointment, all of the heartbreak, all of the dreams that would never be reality. I thought about my 2 children, and I thought about how crushing that was to my parents. It was really very hard to deal with, because I couldn't imagine ever getting out of prison. I really thought that was it.
But that wasn't it. In 2010, after serving 19 years, Shaka was released from prison. He has gone on to start his own publishing company, released several books, and speaks regularly on college campuses, including the University of Michigan. While he says his transformation hasn't happened overnight, literature has had an immense impact.
Being able to read stories about people who have went through similar things and who are capable of overcoming, that really inspired me to change my life and transform my life, but also to have in my peer group men, males that I could talk to who had come from similar circumstances. And as a result of that, I decided to come up with a program to really reach youth at the most base level, which is the heart.
Perhaps one of his biggest accomplishments came last year, when Shaka won a $25,000 grant to fund his own program as part of the Knight Foundation's Black Male Engagement Leadership Award. The award aims to recognize Black males inspiring positive change in their communities.
The program is called Live in Peace Digital and Literary Arts Project, and what I do is I have them write stories about very personal issues that they may have been dealing with, they may have observed, some of the things that they fear going to school, coming from school, some of the things they experience in their own households, and I found it to be very therapeutic because it gives them a free platform to express all of the anger, all of the fears, all of the anxieties, and I think that's really important. To be able to fully express yourself as a human being is really the ultimate form of liberation.
Now 40 years old, the father of 3 is working on a memoir, aptly titled, Righting My Wrongs. Through his reflection has come some advice he would give to his 19-year-old self.
Looking back, I think one of the things that I would say to my 19-year-old self is that you are lovable and that you're worthy of being loved and taken care of and having somebody nurture you and care for you. But also, you have options. And, you know, growing up, back then I didn't feel like I had options. I felt like I had to carry a gun. I felt like I had to react to any threat in the most extreme manner. And I just now, as an adult, I know that's not the case. And I would definitely reinforce that because young men and women need to know that there are options. There are things that you can do outside of your neighborhood. You can do a whole bunch of great things. You can accomplish anything despite what you're going through.
Once motivated by anger and pain, it's a different emotion that motivates Shaka now.
Being able to provide young people with hope is like the most important thing to me right now, because there's so many of us that get caught up in the system who don't have that going in, and nor do we get it while we're inside. And so that's my driving motivation right now, is if I can instill in the child just a glimmer of hope that they can accomplish something, that they can live a meaningful life, that they won't get shot before they reach the age of 21, that they don't have to go to prison in order to be respected in their community, I think I've done my job.